Hey everyone, so doing another Nioh video today. Today we will be looking at at the dual swords. Which, honestly, I feel like the dual swords are maybe the strongest weapon in the game. And this is a beginner's guide. So I will be approaching this with the assumption you have never played Nioh or any game similar to Nioh like the Soul series is. So I will be talking about the dual swords in a sense that it's someone who this is their first introduction to this type of game, since it's a beginner's guide. That's very much possible. So, and also keep in mind, the screen is like twice as bright on recording as it is on my screen. So please note that. I can barely see what the heck I'm doing. So the dual swords. The thing with the dual swords is their damage per hit is not the greatest compared to other weapons. It's actually rather low. But they do remedy this in a number of ways. Between all of their stances, which in Nioh, the different stances are basically different move sets. And each moveset has its own advantages and disadvantages. Mid stance is usually the more balanced one, good for fighting off multiple enemies, like crowd clearance sort of stance. Usually has a good balance of damage and range for most weapons. Of course, stance varies depending on weapon, but this is general. Low stance is usually just full on speed, just it's mainly about moving quickly. And high stance is, well, with any weapon, high stance is going to hit harder than anything else. So with the dual swords, I would recommend either low or mid stance. And I did this backwards. This is mid stance. This is low stance. Sorry, I'm out of sorts today. This is high stance. I don't like that moveset. It feels vulnerable to me. But the dual swords, they're pretty much the perfect weapon once you get their damage squared away. So let's take a look at the skill tree. Now, there are certain missions you will have to do as the game progresses at the dojo to unlock these abilities. The skill tree allows you to make a weapon stronger by getting skills, by spending skill points. Like any game, skill points are how you get skills, of course. But different games have different ways of getting the skill points. In Nioh, it's very simple. You use the weapon. There are some trees like Omio, Shifling, Ninjutsu, and Samurai are all different in how you get them. Well, Omio and Ninjutsu isn't as different, but sort of. But, so the dual swords, this is one of the things I think makes it hardest in the beginning to use the dual swords. Look at how few things you can actually get right away. As you can see, the dual swords don't have a lot they can get until after you beat a Nara and do Way of the Warrior Novice. Even then, you don't unlock the whole skill tree. So, the dual swords can be difficult to get going with in this aspect, and because their damage isn't as great as other weapons. But they have a really deadly moveset in all their stances. Don't get me wrong. I said I find the high stance leaves you vulnerable. It's still a good stance. I didn't say it was a bad stance, but for the dual swords, it has a vulnerability that is just, it's difficult to work with compared to the other two stances. I really wouldn't suggest high stance to a new player. And of course, I'm not going to hit on everything. I feel like there's absolutely no way I can make this guide and not miss something. Because Nioh is such a complex game, and every single weapon has its own level of complexity. There's no way to really describe everything about a weapon in one video, I feel, without forgetting some stuff. So, yeah, the dual swords are strong because they're a versatile weapon due to their speed and moveset, but their damage at first is going to be a little bit difficult to work with. So the next thing I want to talk about is their build. So Nioh has a mechanic called scaling, which is in some games and not in others. What scaling is based on certain stats, your weapon's damage will increase. For example, this is a very early build. So, the dual swords scale off of skill, strength, and heart. Skill being their primary, heart second, strength last. So, each of these stats, as you upgrade them, will give you different abilities. You can use this option to see what each thing does. But keep in mind, some of these stats also have things that aren't mentioned. Like strength also slightly increases your max equip load. You can find all of this. You can find this out. Find out what the different stats do simply by looking at what increases as you level them. As you put points in, because you have to confirm it to actually do a level up, you can see exactly what you'll be getting from the level up. So, there is that. The dual swords do have a pretty powerful build. Strength and skill aren't the greatest stats, but they allow you to use a number of different weapons as your secondary. I'm using the katana as my secondary because it scales with the same stats. It's just different in the sense that what scales highest is different. So, I highly recommend a skill heart build because you're going to get the best damage off of it, and heart is an amazing stat. Heart boosts your key recovery speed and your maximum key, which key, K-I, is, it's sort of what the game is built on. Okay, so you have your life, which is like your health. But see that green bar? Notice how it depletes every time I do something? And then I have to wait for it to have some green in there to do some more stuff. So, like most hack and slashes, key is like your stamina. But it has one major difference. If your ki, which you can take ki damage in Nioh, which means when you get hit, both your health, your life, and your ki are going to take a hit. If your ki is knocked down to 0 by an attack, you will be in a state like if you were to parry an enemy in most games, or that will be when you can be critical hit. Whether you're on the ground or standing, you can be critical hit if you're knocked down to no ki. But this is the only way to get crit hit. Now, this also goes for all enemies in the game. If you knock an enemy down to no ki, you'll be able to critical hit them, including bosses, which is a weapon you can take the utmost advantage in. And there are some weapons that do this to a degree beyond any other. But what makes the dual swords so powerful is on top of their ability to rip your opponents apart with high-speed spamming movements, just tearing them up with attack after attack. They give you ki. They scale off heart. Which heart is also used in blocking. But the heavier the blow, the more ki damage the block sacrifices. The more more ki damage you take from that hit. But a blocked attack will do no damage. What this means is, because your max ki is higher, you are capable of blocking with the dual swords. Very few weapons scale off of heart. The only weapons in the entire game with hard scaling, to my knowledge, are swords. To my knowledge, there is no weapon in this game that scales off of heart other than the dual swords, the sword, and the odachi. So, that is pretty significant, I feel. It's a pretty significant stat. One thing to watch out for, though, is if you build around just maximizing the damage of the weapon, which I feel is the way to go with these. Because not only is Nioh a aggressive game, it's also more so so in Nioh, getting hit, yeah, see how one hit there almost killed me? And this is the first level of the game. So in Nioh, you're squishy regardless. There is nothing you can really do to fix being squishy. It's not like Dark Souls where a tank build will automatically survive a lot of hits. In Nioh, the advantage to a tank build is more doing so much damage that you do more damage than you take. It's more of, but in Nioh, you're pretty much always going to be a glass cannon. You're never going to be tanky, really. You can get more life, you can get better defense, but you're never really going to be a full tank. If you're looking for a game where you can just tank blows like it's nothing, Nioh is not the game for you. If that's what you're looking for, I'd say either Demon Souls or Dark Souls is the game for you. Nioh is very much more centered around damage. And this one little thing makes it so that not having stamina or constitution on your build isn't going to really do that much damage. Especially because any stat will give you 10 life per level. It's not going to be fatal to not be tanky. It's not like Dark Souls where you need to have 40 vigor. Okay? In Nioh, if you have 40 constitution, great. You can take another hit. Basically. The best defense in Nioh is to kill your enemy before you get killed. Not be a tank. That being said, some of the more aggressive builds want armor and life. Why is this? You want to be able to survive more than one hit if your build is going to be in there barraging your enemy. The other thing is the dual swords, with their 3 different stances being so versatile in the sense that each one is so good at different things. They really help you to adapt to all the many different enemy types you will find in Nioh 2. For example, when you're up against an enemy that hits really hard and has a decent bit of health, like this big guy here, who grew because he ate so much of my Amarita, in-game money, basically. It's really good to have that extra speed to avoid his attacks, but still be able to get in hits on him. It can really give you an edge. Mid stance is just all around the most versatile. If you're not really sure what to deal with, what you need to do against a given enemy, most of the time with most weapons, mid stance is going to be your best bet. Because it's just the best at keeping enemies at bay. It has the best balance of speed, range, and damage. Usually having the greatest range, but there are some exceptions, like the spear and the switchblade. High stance is pure damage. And with some weapons has the most range. But high stance is also typically slowest of the stances. These are things to keep in mind with any weapon. If you neglect stances, if you neglect the different stances and just fight in whatever stance, you're screwed. The dual swords especially, because each of their stances is really hindered in certain circumstances. For example, when you need to take down an enemy quickly, but to minimize chance of getting hit, like this thing that keeps murdering me, and keeps giving me trouble, they still do. High stance is usually your best bet. Keep in mind, every weapon is different. No 2 weapons are going to be exactly the same with stances. And every weapon has its best stance. The dual swords are easily mid-stance. Like the Karigasima. Or is it... It's Kusarigama, sorry. I've been calling it the wrong thing all this time. The Kusarigama is the best in high stance. So every weapon is different. The Switchblade just does insane damage in high stance and is easily best in high stance. So most of the time, mid-stance will do you well. But for some weapons, high stance is best. And there are a couple oddballs that do really well in low stance. But low stance always has its advantages. And you cannot neglect low stance with any weapon. And, yeah, so now to get into the nitty-gritty of the weapon. The dual swords are a weapon centered, well, around damage. Not so much damage per hit, but they hit so many times in quick succession that you can rip an enemy apart before they even know what happened. One of the best things you can do using the dual swords early game is to get, it will let me do the move. Come on. Is get the quick draw move, which I'm trying to show, but the problem is the game doesn't like me using it for some reason. It never has. I don't know what the problem with this move is. And the other thing is I get hit all the time when I'm out of range. Oh, I finally get to try to use the move when I'm too bloody close. So as you can see, the move is not easy to pull off, or either that or the game just hates me specifically. But let me show you what I'm trying to do. This is the single hardest hitting move in the entire moveset. And this isn't just to my knowledge. Anyone who has beat Nioh says this, so... And, you know, has gotten, well, every move for the dual swords. So, it is very much a difficult move to pull off. That or the game just hates me like every game does. I really want to show how much damage this move can pull off. But it just doesn't want to let me do it. Come on, really? Can I do this move, for God's sake? Like, I'm telling you, I have tried to do this move like 30 times by now. And it just will not do it. There we go. So you see, it hits pretty hard. It can three-shot this guy. So you definitely want an A agility with the dual swords. Because you're going to be rather squishy. You want your evasion and ki to be as strong as possible. Something I wish someone was there to tell me when I started playing Nioh 2 was your ki is either stronger or weaker based on your agility. Just knowledge that courage and heart make your ki stronger isn't enough. You also have to know about how agility, which is sort of like your equipment load in Dark Souls. So, depending on your agility, your ki can be weaker or stronger in the sense that the lower your agility, the more ki it will cost to do everything, and the more time you need for it to refill. On top of this, your dodge is weaker the lower your agility is. So agility is a very important mechanic. Oh, whoops. So, wait, where is it? Oh, let's go to stats then. So, as you can see, I have an A in agility. So, for an A, you want 30 or less on your equip load. For B, you want 70 or less. And yes, this is very similar to Dark Souls. For C, which I don't know why you would want C or D, because you're very, very much weaker in ki and dodge. But C would be between 70 and 100. But now, 100 and over is D. And basically, having a D means you will lose every fight. Let me see if I can get my weight up to a D here. I don't think so. Where's my heaviest gear? Am I gonna do it? No. But watch this. This is your fat roll. Okay, see how slow my ki is refilling and how much it costs me to do each move? See how slow that is? And how much it costs? Now watch what happens when I take all of that off and have no weight on me. I mean, I guess it's not that much weaker. Early game, anyways. So, as things like heart and courage go up, it's going to become more noticeable. It's something I noticed not that long ago, honestly, and I feel like it doesn't just make your roll weaker, but severely damages your ki, which I don't think I need to explain how weaker ki, after explaining how important ki is, I don't think I need to describe just how important it is to know that less agility means less ki efficiency. Another thing to keep in mind is there are effects you can get on some gear. Do I have any gear with such an effect? That, Okay, so in Nioh, you can pretty much get bonuses to anything through your gear. There's attack bonuses, life bonuses, health. Pretty much anything. Anima, which is useful. I think you can tell what I'm getting at this point. You can also have less key consumption. So, there's also gear that will give you a boost to your maximum key. So, this is... Oh, here we go. See, key, plus 27. So I get an extra 27 key. It's not much, but it helps. It's definitely a thing to get used to if you're coming from the Dark Souls community and this is the first time you're seeing Nioh. He is definitely an adjustment, as well as the just far more aggressive style of Nioh, and the fact that being a tank allows aggressive builds to survive 1 or 2 hits, not be tanky. A Nioh tank and a Dark Souls tank are very, very different things and should be treated as such. Yeah, so see right here. I took out all my opponent's key, and then I was able to hit them with a critical hit. Key is both your worst enemy and your greatest weapon in Nioh. You need to destroy your opponent's key without sacrificing too much of your own. In any fight, proper control over key is proper control over the fight. And these barrage weapons like the Tonfa, the dual swords, which the Tonfa rip key to freaking shreds. The hatchets, these things hit key pretty hard because they don't hit key as hard per hit as something like the Odachi or an axe. But in exchange, in the time it takes you to hit an enemy once with the Odachi or the axe, you can hit them 3 times with these smaller dual-wield weapons. So, it racks up some pretty hefty damage in the end. And is not something to be taken lightly. In Nioh, the best defense is not armor. It's a good offense. You can't neglect offense in Nioh. While weapons like the spear, the axe, the Odachi, the switchblade can be more defensive compared to Dark Souls, it would be considered getting greedy. Like, I'm not kidding. If someone who knows nothing about Nioh were to see anyone playing Nioh from the Dark Souls community, they would all think the same thing. You're getting too greedy. And actually, in reality, you're seeing Nioh as if it was just another Souls. It wasn't even made by the same people. It's similar. It's a Souls-like, but it's not a Souls. Nioh has its own play style. It's very much different than Dark Souls. Instead of being so defense-based, Nioh is more rip your enemies apart before they do just that to you. In Nioh, going full berserker mode, as long as you pay attention to your enemy and what they're doing, is actually effective. But you have to watch your ki. The single easiest way to die in Nioh is not attacking too many times. Well, in a sense it is. But it's neglecting your ki. And honestly, I don't know. Okay, I keep saying the dual swords are like the best weapon in the game. I don't know, honestly. Because the dual swords are the barrage king, okay? But can they really compare to the Tonfa's ability to rip ki apart? Okay, so the Tonfa are about as quick. They are a little bit worse in barrage, but they have one huge difference. One huge advantage. Every hit does like 3 times as much ki damage. 3 times as much. And they have moves that are just like turn into a tornado and whip enemies down to half their ki. Look, I'm not kidding. The dual swords are a great weapon, but honestly, I've been calling them the greatest weapon. I don't know if they really are at this point. But the Tonfa also have a big disadvantage to the dual swords. This. Firm Resolve. Landing an attack reduces the amount of damage you take for a short time. This effect can be boosted if you land another attack before it runs out. Basically what this says is your defense will increase every time you hit an enemy. So, with low stance, with this, if every single one of these attacks hits an enemy, how high do you think your defense is gonna go? Okay, that is ridiculous. With that, I think you could potentially get to that point where you're taking 1 damage per hit. And I don't know how long it lasts, but I think it would. I think you could pretty much keep it going infinitely with low stance plus heart. Only problem is, you have to get rather far in the game to unlock that skill. If I'm not mistaken, you need Way of the Warrior Adept mission. Because you don't get it from Way of the Warrior Novice. And if you think the first little bit of Nioh is tough, well, prepare for a rude awakening when you fight Nioh. And Nioh is the first tough enemy in the game, not including the blade-wielding Impidaras and the Enkis. Enkis can be brutal. As you saw, that one Enki in the very first level of the game killed me like 3 times. And I only killed it once I unleashed one of my... what's honestly the most powerful weapon in your arsenal. The yokai form. While Ki is your most powerful weapon, it's not a weapon your character has, if that makes sense. Like, it's a weapon, but you don't possess the weapon. You can use the weapon, but you do not possess it. It's a big advantage knowing how to control Ki in a fight. But I guess it's more of a environmental hazard than a weapon, because you don't possess your enemy's Ki. You can use it against them, you can use it like a weapon, but as far as an actual weapon, yokai form's your most powerful weapon. And I know everything I just said there makes 0 sense, but... oh my god. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like this is one of the weirdest videos to date on my channel. But, what are you gonna do? Nothing's wrong with the video, so it's still going up. It's not too long or too short, it's not doxing any of my personal information, it's not doing anything I don't want. So yeah. I need to end this off here before it is too long. I try to keep my videos between 30 and 45 minutes, so I need to end this video. Also, if you guys want to see shorter videos, tell me. I don't mind making videos shorter. I just feel like if I'm recording once a week, people want a certain amount of content from me. If the videos are too long, tell me. Comments are a thing.